Hello, and welcome to Study Abroad Conversations. My name is Stacy Shimizu. I'm the director of the International Office, and today we're talking about study abroad for student athletes. I'm not going to participate in the conversation, so I'll bow out here in just a moment and ask my guests to introduce themselves.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm Sam Berghoff. I am a recent graduate from Illinois Wesleyan. I played softball. I just graduated 2020. I studied international studies and Hispanic studies. I was a double major. And I'm going to mention where I studied abroad too and the program I did. I studied abroad in Argentina with SIT, and I did the Transnationalism and Comparative Development course.
Hi, I'm Cassandra. I'm a junior here at Wesleyan. I play lacrosse and I'm studying secondary education and English literature. I studied abroad in London through the IWU program, and I was able to play a little bit of lacrosse abroad. So talk about that.
My name is Tony Bankston. I am the Associate Athletic Director at Illinois Wesleyan University. In another life, I served as a men's and women's head soccer coach for 6 years. I worked in the admissions office and served as Dean of Admissions for 10 years. Graduated from Illinois Wesleyan long time ago in 1991, and never studied abroad, but I actually lived abroad for 10 years. I am the offspring of a German mother and a U.S. Air Force father. I just grew up assuming everybody was exposed to two cultures and found it really weird when I met people that had never left the United States before. So my upbringing was a little bit different, but have always been interested to work with students that have studied abroad and hear their stories when they come back. So, Jake?
Yeah, hello, my name is Jake Tencza. I am a junior accounting and Hispanic studies double major with a minor in finance. I played baseball here, and I studied with IES abroad in Barcelona, Spain last fall.
Yeah, well, I talked about my background kind of growing up in a dual culture household, I guess, and it's seeming normal to me, but that isn't the normality for a lot of people. How did you guys catch the bug? You know, when did it start that you knew you really wanted to go abroad? And
Well, I can start with that one just because I think my answer at first was, seemingly straightforward. I basically declared an international studies major my sophomore year. I'd done a ton of gen eds and kind of found my way to the courses, and I just loved them. And a requirement for an international studies major is to go abroad. And in addition to that, I had decided that I really was enjoying studying Spanish. So it just kind of led to this natural progression of, well, I need to go abroad and I have this opportunity to continue my studies of Spanish. And it really worked out. And, I was very nervous. And I think that's something that for a long time in high school and even early college had held me back, was this fear of, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I'm capable of doing this. I'm an athlete. I'm going to have to miss my fall season. Yeah, but once I started getting closer to it, it just was, oh man, this is what I need to do. And then once I was there, I was like, so I only have a semester of this, like I should have signed on for a few more. And now it's just kind of, I'm ready to go back. I'm in post-grad life. I don't, who knows what's next. And yeah, the itch hasn't stopped, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with Sam on this one too. My reasoning came a little differently, but going into my freshman year of college at Wesleyan, my dad had taken my whole family to Luxembourg and Austria because we have family there. It was my first time abroad. We had to lay over in London, and I was there for like maybe 48 hours, and I was like, I need to come back. I don't know how I'm coming back, but I need to come back as soon as possible. And when I heard Wesleyan had a London program, I was like, perfect. It was in the fall, so it was my off season. I knew I would figure it out, and I did, and it was awesome. And I'm with Sam, just wanting to go back.
Yeah, so kind of similar path for me as well. Through high school, we had to take 4 years of Spanish, and I just fell in love with it. I really liked it, and one of my teachers, she was actually from Spain, from Andalusia, not Catalonia. She was always a little biased that I was going not to her home region, but she was still happy that I went, and she really got me interested in studying abroad. So I knew coming into school that I wanted to go abroad. the main thing was how was I going to make that work with baseball. Well, luckily / unluckily for me, I got hurt freshman year in baseball. I ended up having to get surgery on my shoulder. So I wasn't going to be able to play in the fall anyways. Talked with Coach Martell, and he encouraged it. He said, hey, you're not going to play in the fall. It'd be better for you to miss this season and have that experience and get that taken care of, and then come back for your junior and senior year in the fall to, have a more of a leadership role and be there for the team. And like Sam was saying, I'm a Hispanic studies major, so it's a requirement to study abroad. So obviously that worked out really well, and got 5 classes out of the way while I was over there and did a lot of traveling, and just couldn't have worked out better.
Well, the one thing I was curious about, because you guys all brought it up, and I was going to ask this, because I know that when we do recruiting, from admissions in general at the university, it's like, hey, one of the great things about Illinois Wesleyan is you don't have to be one particular thing. You can accomplish a lot in the 4 years, because we really try to make that happen. And in athletics, I know with recruiting, we try to say the same thing. I would guess most student athletes, or many student athletes, are a little scared or hesitant, depending on the coach. It may differ. But it's striking up that conversation with your coach about, hey, this is something I want to do. It's important to me. And not feeling like the coach is going to be all over you. There might be that fear that they're going to get. So, I mean, how did that go for each of you? What was effective in kind of, I guess, bridging that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was kind of easy for me just because I was hurt. So he's, go have fun. And if Coach Martell, he's all about having a good time and getting school done and taken care of, and just doing as many things as possible. So it was pretty easy with him, and he was totally supportive through all of it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that, our coaches are just as representative of our university and its standards as anyone else on campus, and, as equally as we are. And so they understand, and they want, I am speaking generally here, but they want us to have these interests outside of our sport. I know I just went into my coaches, I think in the spring, and kind of mentioned to them, hey, I'm thinking about going abroad this fall. And it was just so immediate, the excitement from them. They were all over it. They were super excited to have me come back and tell everyone about everything. Even when I got back on campus, they let me do presentations and X, Y, and Z. And so for them, they allowed it to be a learning experience as well, which I thought it was really incredible all around. It was nothing but support.
Yeah, I know, Cassandra, I know you had the chance to actually play with, I think, a club team over when you were abroad. How did that come about? I mean, did Coach Lindsay help you with that? Was that something you sought out on your own, or?
So when I talked to her about going abroad, she was very supportive, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about looking for a team over there. And she's like, oh, I don't really know much, but I know, there's stuff going on over there. And so ended up just Google searching like England lacrosse, and there was a whole organization over there that was basically just club. You practice once a week, play on the weekends. Contacted them again and said, hey, I'm kind of close by. Do you mind if I come to your tryouts? And they gave me the dates, the information, and yeah, it was great.
Sam and Jake, you don't have to disclose how much you actually worked out while you were abroad, but what was the challenge there? I mean, sometimes the sports don't quite translate, like maybe they work for Cassandra, or if you're going to Spain, finding some people to play soccer with may not be that difficult, baseball, but even just working out and staying in shape. I mean, was that good, bad? Did you have to really work at it? How did it go?
Yeah, so a couple things here. The first thing I'll mention is that definitely the calories were hard to get in. While I was over there, we're used to a little bit bigger portions and, fattier foods, I guess. Definitely lost a few pounds while I was there, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but I was trying to gain a little weight, so it's kind of detrimental. But my host mom was great. She made some great food, so I can't complain about that at all. There's actually a gym like right the next block over from me. A little pricey, like a lot of things in Europe are, but I try to go probably 5 to 6 days a week. I go before class, and they had a pool, get some swimming in, get some lifting in. I go on runs throughout the city occasionally. And then by a stroke of luck, I actually was talking to one of my friends that I met on like the second day I was there, and I found out that he plays baseball at a school, a Division III school as well, up in Minnesota. And it came up that he played baseball, and I was like, wow, well, I brought my gloves and my cleats. Like, I was hoping to find somewhere to play because I'd done some research but couldn't really find anything. And we found together some guy on Facebook, and it turns out that Barcelona hosted the Olympics in 1992. And ever since then, baseball's been like growing in Spain. So we would go every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday for the Team Catalunya and like the Federació Catalana baseball and softball. And it was like there were a couple teams, and then we'd play like teams from all over Spain. And we'd have like practice Monday, Wednesday, and then games on the weekends. And then there was like a tournament through with all of Spain where it was like in Valencia. And it was a really cool experience playing with all these people. I think there was people from like 7 different countries that were on the team, and a couple guys that were on like the Olympic teams for their respective countries, and people that were in the minor leagues in the States that were just going there, you know, in the off season. So it was still really good quality baseball. So I definitely stayed in baseball shape there. So it was just a great experience overall.
Yeah, it sounds like a super cultural experience on top of the athletic.
Yeah, and practicing the Spanish and getting acquainted with the baseball lingo in Spanish. It was an incredible experience.
And Europeans like to celebrate a lot after they play a game. They like to have, I know they're very social afterwards.
There was a lot of Dominicans on my team, and if you know them with baseball, I've never experienced that amount of horns when I'm up to bat. It was kind of distracting, but it was so much fun, and you know, I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Plus, it was on an Olympic field, and that was incredible.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's amazing. My experience was very different. I did not touch a softball, a bat, a glove for 4 months. And that was pretty horrifying, seeing as, you know, we grow up playing these sports, and that was the longest time I'd gone since I started playing softball without playing it. So it was scary, but I kind of did the same thing. So I found a gym that was pretty close to where my host mom lived, and it was a little pricey, but it was, you know, well worth it. I had our workout program sent to me, and, you know, my coaches were really great. They gave me, you know, workouts that used less equipment if needed. Luckily I had the gym, so it was fine. My program traveled a lot. So we did trips to 3 different countries, each for a week. So we were really moving around a lot, and I found that it was really difficult for me to get into a rhythm with exercise. And nobody else in my program was an athlete, so it was kind of just me and myself on this one, but I took it as an opportunity to explore other ways to, you know, keep myself healthy, stay active. I did a lot of walking. I used that as my exercise. I was exploring a city, you know, I was walking constantly. And one of the other things I did, you know, the gym would offer classes. So I went and I did like a cycling class. I'd never done that before. I'd never thought about doing that, not even in the States. And, you know, it's like you get this exposure to their culture and the language, and you're having to work physically very hard, but also mentally and emotionally to kind of put yourself in these scenarios. So although I kind of felt like I was out of this rhythm that I had been in so long, I also got back to campus and realized that it was nice on my body to kind of switch up what I'd been doing. And I came back and felt 10 times more excited to get back in the weight room and back with my team and back in practices. So it kind of like amped up, you know, just getting back in my normal routine. And it definitely makes you really grateful for what Shirk offers, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I feel like my cultural experiences abroad, for me, really shaped my perspective of the world, right? Because I was never really narrowly focused. It's very easy for me, I can say now, looking back on many years, to be someone that can really, even in an administrative position, I'm really good at kind of looking at both sides of an argument or a debate, because I know that you can't always just come at things from one angle. And I think coming from 2 cultures and living in Germany for the years that I did, and then in different parts of the U.S., That was something I think that really changed me. How did your experiences abroad change you guys?
I can.
Yeah, no, you should
Okay.
start.
I can definitely say the number one thing that changed for me is I was a lot more outgoing. Before going to London, I was very quiet. You can ask my coach. I even talked so much more when I got back. She was so confused. Yeah, it made me, I had to do things for myself. I had to speak for myself. I had to, figure out what I was buying, what price things were in markets, stuff like that. So I kind of found my voice while I was abroad, and definitely changed, that definitely changed about me.
Being a little bit, I won't say anything about Sam or Jake negatively here, Cassandra, but being maybe a little bit quieter and more withdrawn, was it harder for you to make that transition?
It was nice because I went with the IWU program, so everybody that I stayed with and was in class with was Illinois Wesleyan. But that's also why I was so happy that I got to play on a club team, because I didn't know a single person, and I was very quickly labeled the American. They figured out right away that I didn't know the international rules.
That's not the worst nickname you could have got. I was labeled Gringo.
Gringo.
Yep.
Yeah, but definitely being on the team was where I grew as a person. I had to, make new friends on the team, have the courage to ask questions when I had no idea what the rules were. And yeah, actually figure out like how to get to games, because we had to take public transportation. And so I had to, ask people for rides, ask them how they were taking like trains to get there, stuff like that. So it was definitely an experience. Definitely had to learn to fend for myself, but it was good.
So did you bring like your stick and your cleats, or how did that work?
I didn't. I brought my cleats, and then I brought my stick head, but I wasn't able to use it because, again, didn't know the rules. I had a mesh head, and you can't have mesh in international lacrosse. They just changed the rule this year, but while I was playing there, it was only stringing, so I had to borrow a whole stick from them, but it was all good. They had an extra, so it worked out.
Okay, I have a question to interrupt our previous question. Did you guys feel that being a part of a team, like previous, your whole life, like being an athlete, did you feel that that gave you an advantage to go out and like be a part of new groups? Because I felt like, you're mentioning like you were a part of this new team, and you had been a part of teams previously. And I personally felt that I had a much better time working with people that I didn't know very well, and kind of figuring out ways to collaborate with people that maybe I didn't culturally always understand, but, working through those things. I felt that it was easier for me, having kind of been a part of a team as an athlete previously, to do that. Yeah,
I definitely think joining a different team was difficult, especially since now I was just gotten used to my team at Wesleyan, and I was like, oh, it's different. They have different language, kind of different lingo they use on the field. But I think having that background and having just, again, transitioned into a new team at Wesleyan for my first year was really helpful, because I still remembered what it was like to be new and to like be new at like new people and have to figure out how the dynamics work, and, rely on my skill until I can figure out how everyone else plays and kind of fit myself into how their rhythm is going. I definitely think it was an advantage.
Yeah, I really liked it. It was tough, to come to a new team with all new guys and not really know anybody, but that was also one of the advantages, because you're meeting new people, and, by the end of it, as a team, we were going out clubbing and out to bars at night and stuff, as a team, and like getting that bonding experience. And they were like a nice way to bridge the gap to the local people, because they are local people, they live there. And in a study abroad program, typically you're around other Americans. So, and that's like who you hang out with. But it allowed me to hang out with local people, experience, we'd go to local restaurants, stuff that, maybe a tourist wouldn't go to, and go to local clubs and stuff like that, and see parts of the city that, we wouldn't always see. So it was a really cool experience. And I love like learning about people and like where they come from and like their cultures. So having that diversity on the team of like the people, it was like 7 different countries, and just talking to, a different one each day about like, oh, like what was your life like growing up? Like, where did you grow up? How'd you get to where you are today? And just everybody had a different story, and it was so cool to hear about. And they wanted to learn about you just as much as you wanted to learn about them. So it's just a super rewarding experience.
Pam, I've heard you talk before. I think when I asked the other question, I think you think you're a completely different person now than the one who left for Argentina.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I do, because I am. I literally was so changed by study abroad, and I cannot verbalize how many ways. Like I said, for me, I didn't get to really be a part of a team in the traditional way that I had known, which was really difficult. It was difficult for me to feel kind of removed a little bit from my sport, and knowing that, I have this team that's still on campus and they get to be together. But yeah, it really forced me to be like, hey, who am I? Who am I as an individual? How am I acting as an individual in these groups that I'm in these classes, in this new city? And it just allowed me to kind of really get on a path that is now, the same one I'm on and the same one I'm hoping to be on for pretty much the rest of my life, in terms of, I figured out what areas I want to work in, and I really found out that I'm very capable of doing things that I previously had not believed at all. I know, Jake, you had a language barrier, and going into that, and for the first couple of weeks, it was almost impossible. My host mother spoke no English whatsoever, and I was sitting down at lunches and dinners with her every day for multiple hours, and I just was like, I don't know what you're saying, and you can't understand what I'm saying either. But you really realize that you can adjust in any situation. You can work through things, even if they feel really difficult, and you can find solutions to problems that you feel at some point may have been impossible to solve. And not only in sports is that incredibly important to understand, I can move past whatever failure I'm experiencing in this moment, and in this day, in this practice, in this game. In life, that is something I'm going to carry on for the rest of forever. And I also now am studying to teach English to, as a foreign language in a different country. So my experience has just kind of led me to this point where I want to help people get through that and be a positive influence for them. So I am just on the up and up for the rest of forever. I'm ready to go back to another country and kind of challenge myself all over. Because it's so much fun to put yourself through something difficult, and work to overcome it.
It sounds like all of you guys had really great experiences, but if you, like, to a student that's thinking about studying abroad, is there still something you would say, I wish I would have?
I mean, I don't know if Stacy wants me to say this because I get into some pretty risky territory here.
She said they could edit things out, so I don't
Okay.
know how to answer that question, but I have faith in editing.
I'm trying to think how to say this. I would have gone out more and had more fun and traveled more and explored more, rather than focusing so much on grades. I was so worried about my GPA because my grades transferred in, and I was doing 5 classes plus an internship. So I was always studying, doing all this stuff. And my roommate would be like, hey, do you want to go out tonight? I'm like, it's a Wednesday. I can't, we have class tomorrow or whatever. But it's one of the biggest club nights of the week there. And I only got to experience that a couple of times. So I probably would have gone out more and really immersed myself into the culture and explored the city more, and even just walked around on my own into the different neighborhoods instead of kind of staying at home and working on school.
I don't think there's anything, it is a balance, right? We all have life balances that we have to deal with, and students have to deal with balances. And it's, you're right. The cultural opportunity that you have while you're there, you don't want to flame out and flunk every class and have it be an academic nightmare for you.
I definitely don't want to go against having a plan thing, because I think it's very, very important. But I will say one thing that I did for the first 3 months while I was gone was just rush everywhere. I wanted to see everything, and I didn't really think about just looking where I was walking, or just looking around and just taking it all in. And that's what I think I would do differently, is walk more. I took a lot of buses, which was fun, but I wish I would have walked a little bit more and really focused on what I was seeing around me and seeing the culture around me, versus rushing to get to the museum or rushing to get to the theater to see whatever play. Definitely think I could have taken in a little bit more of just everyday mundane things that are happening in completely different country.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel that, Sam, like, the difference between being a tourist somewhere and actually living in a community and in a culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so different. Literally, if there's one thing I could change, I would spend more time. Like I would have done kind of a back-to-back semester. Absolutely. But you quickly realize, a semester is a pretty short amount of time. And I think one of the best ways to kind of find yourself in a community is to go out there and meet locals, because that is the way into, places you would never really find as a tourist. And I think that's one of the things I kind of underestimated. I really, had this idea like, okay, I got to go to, this museum, this restaurant, whatever. And I quickly realized that that's where all of the other tourists were. Yes, I was, seeing their culture and learning to understand it, but it was really different when I kind of started to find myself in groups of locals. And, I was becoming friends with these people, and they were showing me a whole different side of the city that I could have never found on my own. And so I think in that, my advice is, be fearless. It's really, failure is failure. Everyone does it. And I think if you just put yourself out there, you are going to have this incredible experience that, you couldn't have even imagined previously. And another thing I would say is keep a journal. I kept a journal and I wrote pretty much every day just about what I did, who I met, what I saw. And now I get to go back and, I have a ton of photos, but those only do so much. So going back and reading the things I did and the experiences I had and how I felt, it's so amazing to kind of relive those things.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll add on to that, Sam, I didn't do it, I wish I would have. One of my friends that I met there did, is that they took a 1-second video every day of like the most interesting thing, and then they compiled it at the end, and it was like the coolest video ever. So definitely do that. The other thing that I didn't mention, I'm a little frugal, so like I wanted to save a lot of money and like not spend a ton, but spend the money, take the extra trip. You're only there for whatever time. I wish I would have traveled more. I wish I would have done more things, like more museums, more everything. Like just do it. You're there. You can make money later. You spend the money.
And on that note, spend the money. Thank you all so much for this conversation. It was wonderful. And hopefully you'll convince some of your peers to take the plunge. Thank you for joining me. And for those of you watching, I hope you'll tune in for some of our other study abroad conversations and some of our other study abroad week events. Thanks.